firing up your laptop on a Monday morning. You haven't even taken your first sip of coffee yet.
Oh, that's the most critical part of the day, honestly.
Right, right. But while you were sleeping, your company's AI didn't just, draft a few routine emails.
No, we are way past that.
Way past it. Instead, it analyzed a sudden delay in your global supply chain and then autonomously negotiated a temporary contract with a backup vendor just to cover the gap.
Wow. And it did this all overnight.
Completely overnight. It reallocated a portion of your quarterly marketing budget to account for the new costs. And then it just left a concise 3-bullet point executive summary on your dashboard outlining the moves it made.
Just a casual Monday morning waiting for you.
Exactly. I mean, you are not just using a tool anymore. At that point, you are managing a digital colleague.
It feels like science fiction, I know. But that scenario is rapidly becoming the baseline of modern business. I mean,
Yeah.
we were moving so far beyond the chatbots that just, write poems or summarize your meeting notes.
Right, the parlor tricks.
Yeah, exactly. We are entering an era of true autonomous execution. And frankly, the corporate world is kind of scrambling to figure out what to do with it.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. If you are listening to this, you're probably trying to cut through a massive wall of noise right now.
Oh, there's so much noise.
So much. You want the signal. You need to know what is actually real and what is just another, overhyped tech trend.
Right.
So we are pulling our insights today from a brilliant piece of writing by J.D. Parashar. He is the founder and director of Rethink AI Innovation and Research.
It's a great piece.
It really is. The piece is called What is Agentic AI and Why Should Businesses Care? And the core premise here is just massive. Parashar argues that we are crossing the threshold into the third wave of artificial intelligence.
Third wave, yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this because we are going to give you a clear, completely jargon-free breakdown of what this shift actually means. I mean, we're past the point of sitting around a boardroom asking, should we use AI?
Right. That question is obsolete.
Exactly. The only question left is, are we prepared for autonomous AI?
And that distinction, between a tool you use and a system that acts autonomously is, it's the entire ballgame.
Yeah.
Our goal today is to really understand the mechanics of that shift. We need to look at how organizations fundamentally have to redesign themselves to survive what Parashar calls the intelligent economy.
Because if they don't...
If a company just views this as another software update, they are going to be completely left behind by competitors who actually understand the structural changes happening underneath.
So let's start with those mechanics. Because before we talk about redesigning a whole business, we have to understand what we are actually building with, right?
Absolutely.
The source breaks the evolution of AI down into 3 waves. So the first wave was basic automation. We all know this one. You program a machine to do one repetitive task over and over.
If A happens, do B.
Right. It was completely rigid. But then we got the second wave, which is the generative AI boom that we have all been living through recently.
Right, the chat interfaces.
Yeah, exactly. The technology that creates text, generates images, writes code based on a prompt.
And, generative AI was a massive leap because it brought nuance. It wasn't just if A, then B anymore.
Yeah.
It could synthesize information, but, and the article points this out, it still suffers from a critical limitation, which is that it's entirely passive.
It just waits for you.
Exactly. It requires a human to sit at a keyboard, define the problem, craft a prompt, wait for the output, and then evaluate if that output is actually useful. It operates in total isolation.
Right. So you are still the engine. The AI is really just the steering wheel.
That's a great way to put it.
But now the text introduces the third wave, which is agentic AI. And the definition Parashar gives is that these are AI systems capable of pursuing objectives with a high degree of autonomy.
Autonomy being the key word there.
Autonomy, yes. But I want to make sure we really understand the how behind that. I mean, how does a basic language model become an agent? My understanding is that we are essentially giving these models a framework to reason, and more importantly, giving them hands.
Hands? I like that.
Right. Like we give them access to digital tools like web browsers, internal databases, or, communication platforms.
Yeah, that is the mechanical secret behind all of this.
Yeah.
It's often called a reason and act loop.
Okay, a reason and act loop.
Yeah. So a generative AI model, it basically just predicts the next best word. But an agentic AI model is given a goal. And it begins this internal dialogue.
It talks to itself.
Essentially, yeah. It says, okay, what is my current state? What tool do I need to use to get closer to the goal?
Oh, wow.
So it might write a script to pull data from your finance system, look at the results, realize the data is incomplete, Actively decide to search the web for the missing context, combine the two data sets, and then email a report.
Without you doing anything.
Exactly. It observes the results of its own actions and course corrects until the objective is met without you ever writing a second prompt.
I was trying to think of an analogy for this, and I keep coming back to finance.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, think about generative AI like a really advanced digital calculator. It is incredibly powerful, but it only computes exactly what you punch into it. It just sits on your desk until you need it.
Right.
But Agentic AI is more like an algorithmic trading bot. You don't tell the bot which specific stocks to buy every single second. You give it a financial goal, you set the risk parameters, and then you just turn it on.
Yes.
It monitors the market, makes thousands of micro decisions on its own, buys, sells, and adjusts its strategy based on real-time data.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yep.
And what's fascinating here is how that shifts the psychological dynamic of work.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we are transitioning from interacting with a passive instrument to managing an active collaborator. And that transition demands an entirely new way of thinking about productivity.
Right, because it's not just about speed anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Parashar makes a really compelling argument that the first two waves of AI were fundamentally about saving time. You wrote a report in 10 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Which is great.
It is great,
Yeah.
but it's isolated speed. Agentic AI, because it operates autonomously and can coordinate multiple tasks at once, well, it changes the actual economics of productivity. It doesn't just save time, it multiplies organizational capacity.
Okay, but the text uses some pretty heavy corporate language here. It talks about using these agents to, quote, optimize the enterprise as a whole by creating intelligent workflows that connect disconnected systems.
It is a bit jargon heavy.
Yeah, so hold on. Optimize the enterprise sounds great if you're in a slide deck in a boardroom, but what does that actually look like for, say, a mid-level manager on a random Tuesday?
Fair point, fair point. Let's ground that in reality. Think about the classic organizational silos. You've got marketing, operations, and finance.
And they usually hate talking to each other.
They absolutely hate it. And they run on completely different software platforms.
Yeah.
So let's say a marketing campaign suddenly goes viral on a Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, good news.
Well, traditionally, the marketing manager is thrilled, sure, but operations is entirely blind to it until inventory runs out 2 days later.
Oh, right.
And then finance is screaming because emergency shipping costs are destroying the quarterly margin. That is a disconnected workflow.
A completely typical Tuesday disaster.
Right. It happens all the time. Now, inject an intelligent workflow powered by Agentic AI. The agent monitoring the marketing platform observes the sudden spike in engagement.
It sees the virality.
Yes, it autonomously pings the finance API to verify there is budget to scale the ad spend. It simultaneously accesses the supply chain database, realizes current inventory won't cover the projected demand, and alerts the operations manager with a pre-drafted purchase order for raw materials, basically asking for a single click to approve.
That is wild.
That is what Parashar means by optimizing the enterprise. It bridges the silos. It turns a fragmented chain of, well, human bottlenecks into a fluid, responsive nervous system.
That makes total sense. But I do have to push back on the business reality of this just a little bit.
Let's hear it.
Let's say I am a CEO, and I buy this incredible agentic AI system that turns my company into this fluid nervous system. What stops my biggest competitor from just buying the exact same software tomorrow?
A very common question.
Right, because if the technology is available to everyone, don't we all just end up in an automated stalemate? Where is the actual competitive advantage if we are all just licensing the same digital collaborators?
The source actually addresses this directly. And the answer is that the technology itself will absolutely be commoditized.
So everyone will have it.
Yes, everyone will have access to powerful AI agents.
Okay.
The competitive advantage does not come from owning the AI. It comes from how you execute with it.
Execution over ownership.
Precisely. If you drop a hyper-fast autonomous agent into a broken, highly bureaucratic workflow where it still needs, 14 human approvals to send a single email.
Then you just get bad results faster.
Exactly. You just automate the dysfunction. The companies that win will be the ones who possess the operational agility to redesign their business models around the technology.
Yeah.
It's about structural adaptation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We are talking about bridging silos and automated nervous systems, which sounds amazing for efficiency, but we also just established that these agents are making active decisions based on their own reasoning loops.
They are.
So if my competitor and I both deploy these systems and my agent is out there autonomously reallocating budgets, adjusting supply chains, firing off communications to vendors, Who gets fired when it makes $1 million mistake?
Ah, yeah.
Because handing over the keys to run your business workflows introduces some massive, terrifying risks.
It is the single biggest barrier to adoption right now. With greater autonomy comes an absolute mandate for stronger oversight. Parashar really emphasizes that governance has to evolve right alongside the capability of the technology.
You can't just set it and forget it.
No, you cannot blame the algorithm when things go wrong. Organizations have to build accountability frameworks that define exactly who owns the outcomes of an AI-driven process.
Which immediately brings up the concept of trust, right? And not just from a legal standpoint, but from a psychological one.
Absolutely.
Like if I am a customer and I feel like I am trapped in an opaque, AI-driven, bureaucratic nightmare, say my account is flagged by an agent and I have no idea why, and there's no human to appeal to, I am taking my business elsewhere immediately.
And you wouldn't be the only one. If we connect this to the bigger picture, trust is going to become a major strategic differentiator over the next decade.
Trust as a metric.
Yes,
Yeah.
customers, and frankly your own employees, need to understand how decisions are being made. They need to know where human oversight actually exists in the loop. And this ties directly into the concept of responsible AI that the text highlights.
Because a lot of people just see that as a buzzword.
They do, or worse, corporate leaders often view ethical guidelines, fairness checks, and security protocols as red tape that just slows down innovation.
Right, they just want to move fast and break things.
But Parashar argues the exact opposite.
He frames it as a scalability engine, right?
Exactly that. Think of it from a purely practical standpoint. If you build an autonomous system without strict security, transparency, and fairness constraints, you might get a really impressive pilot program.
It works great in a controlled sandbox.
Exactly. But the moment you try to scale that system across a global enterprise, that lack of responsibility becomes a catastrophic liability.
Oh, for sure.
The AI might optimize a workflow by, say, inadvertently discriminating against a certain demographic of customers, or by exposing secure financial data across departments. Responsible AI is not a moral constraint on innovation. It is the structural foundation that allows innovation to scale safely.
And what about the people actually working inside these companies? We are talking about agents managing end-to-end workflows. The obvious fear here is that humans are just going to be replaced outright.
The displacement fear.
Yeah, I mean, why do I need a procurement officer if the agent monitors inventory and drafts the purchase orders itself?
This raises an important question, and it is a fear that organizations really have to confront head-on. The source takes a very clear stance here. The future is not about outright replacement, but rather humans working alongside intelligent agents.
Co-pilots, essentially.
Right. But that collaboration doesn't just happen by accident. If an employee views the agent as an adversary coming for their job, they will resist it, sabotage it, or simply refuse to integrate it.
Right, which requires a massive shift in change management. The text points out that technology only succeeds when people are prepared for it. So companies have to invest heavily in workforce reskilling and AI literacy.
They have to.
You have to train that procurement officer to stop acting as a data entry clerk and start acting as a strategic auditor who manages a fleet of AI procurement agents.
And that leads perfectly into the practical application. Knowing these risks and understanding the sheer scale of the opportunity. How does an organization actually survive the middle ground?
How do you get from A to B?
Exactly. How do you get from where we are today to that intelligent enterprise?
Well, Parashar lays out a 5-step playbook for business leaders, and what I love about it is how sequential it is. You don't just start by buying software.
Never start with the software.
Right. You start with the minds of the leadership team. So the first priority is building executive AI literacy. Because if your C-suite still thinks of AI as just a fancy chatbot that writes blog posts, they cannot possibly make strategic decisions about enterprise transformation.
Right. They have to understand the difference between generative tools and agentic collaborators.
Exactly. And because once the leadership actually understands the mechanism of agentic AI, it changes where they aim the technology, which is the next logical step.
Step 2.
Yeah, step 2. Instead of looking for isolated tasks to automate, trying to process a single invoice, faster leaders need to identify high-value business processes. You have to look for entire end-to-end workflows where an agent can span multiple systems and create measurable business value.
But as we just discussed, aiming an autonomous agent at a massive workflow is a recipe for disaster if the underlying structure is flawed. Right, an agent running on bad data across 5 different departments is just going to automate chaos. Which brings us to step 3.
Right.
Strengthening AI governance is the necessary precursor to deployment.
Mhm.
Before you let an agent execute a workflow, you have to establish clear policies. You need rigorous data quality standards. You need mandated human-in-the-loop checkpoints for high-stakes decisions.
So they can't just run wild.
Exactly. And you need robust risk management protocols.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road for step 4, because putting all of that into practice forces a company to completely rethink how work is organized.
You have to redesign the operating models.
Exactly. You can't just bolt an intelligent agent onto a process designed in 1995. You have to redesign the operating model from the ground up to leverage that new collaboration between human strategy and AI execution.
And finally, step 5. How do you know if any of this actually worked? The implementation of the technology is only the starting line,
The ultimate measure of success cannot be how many agents you deployed.
or how many lines of code they wrote. Measuring an agent is fundamentally different from measuring a human employee. You have to evaluate success based on actual business outcomes.
Right. You aren't measuring input, you are measuring impact. Like, are you seeing a tangible increase in operational resilience?
Exactly.
Is customer satisfaction rising because issues are resolved proactively? Has your speed to market increased? Is revenue growing? Because if the technology isn't moving the needle on those core business metrics, the transformation failed, regardless of how advanced the AI is.
And it is worth noting that guiding organizations through this exact sequence is the core focus of Parishar's firm, Rethink AI.
Yeah, the author of the piece.
Right. They consult on moving businesses away from that scattered basic AI adoption, helping them build intelligent workflows, and ultimately guiding them toward full autonomous enterprise capabilities. They focus on the strategy and the governance required to make this work in the real world.
So, what does this all mean for you? Whether you are a CEO trying to steer a global corporation, a mid-level manager trying to navigate your Tuesday afternoon, or just someone trying to understand where the economy is heading, the takeaway from this deep dive is pretty clear.
The window is closing.
Every major technological shift opens a very brief window where early understanding is your greatest advantage. And we are in that window with Agentic AI right now. We are leaving the era of passive tools and entering the era of active collaborators.
Organizations that treat this as just another trend are going to struggle to survive.
Exactly. The future belongs to those who build intelligent partnerships between human leadership and autonomous systems.
I do want to leave you with a final thought to really mull over, building on this idea of end-to-end workflow automation.
Okay.
So we discussed how agentic AI can seamlessly bridge the gaps between traditionally isolated departments, connecting marketing, finance, and supply chain.
The silos.
Right, the silos. Well, historically, what has been the primary function of middle management?
Oh, that's interesting.
Their job has largely been to act as the human API. They are the communication bridge. They coordinate tasks and translate needs between those disconnected silos to ensure execution.
Just keeping everything moving.
Exactly. So if agentic AI steps into that role as the ultimate frictionless cross-departmental collaborator, what happens to middle management?
Wow.
Will this third wave of AI force us to completely reinvent what it means to be a manager in the 21st century?
That is a staggering question, and it really highlights just how structural this shift really is. It's not just about the technology, it is about redefining the nature of work itself. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the incredible changes happening around us. We will catch you next time.